So this question asked how many positive real zeros, negative zeros, imaginary, okay? So to find your positive zeros, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do those sign changes. So from here to here, are there sign changes? So it goes from a negative to a positive, so this is a yes. Is there a sign change between 11 and negative 3? Okay. Is there a sign change between negative 3x and 2? Okay, so that means we have 3 sign changes. What does that mean? Three or one positive real zeros. So remember, you guys, it always decreases by 2 and it never goes into the negative. So 3 or 1 positive zeros. Now, we have to do the inverse, right? So to do the inverse, we're going to plug in -1 for the x's. So -1 to the third power is -1. -1 times -2 is, so the inverse, the first term would be positive. -1 squared. 1 times 11 is 1 times 11. Thank you. -1 times -3. And 2 doesn't change because it doesn't have a variable, so it's +2. So are there any questions about how I did that? How I went from -2x to the third to +2x to the third? Okay. From here to here. Sign change? Did we go from a positive to a negative? So it's a no. So this is positive 11x squared. Is that -3x? So that's a no. Positive 3x to +2, is that a sign change? So we have 0 sign changes. What does that mean? Yep, it means 0 negative real zeros. It can't go any lower than that. It means that no rational, no real zeros are going to be negative. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make our chart. We're going to have positive. We're going to have negative. And we're going to have imaginary. And then we're going to have the total. And the total just means how many roots are we looking for altogether? So what's the highest exponent in this problem, you guys? So that's our total. So we're looking for 3 roots. So that means positive plus negative plus imaginary should equal 3. Okay. Thank you. So I have 3. So I'm going to put 3 here. So if I have 3 positive roots, how many negative roots will I have? Always 0. So how many imaginary roots? 0, because this should equal 3. Well, it already equals 3, so that's my first one. Okay. Now, I have 1 positive. It goes with 0 negative. So how many imaginary roots? 2. And we're done. So that means I can have 3 or 1 positive real roots, or I can have 0 and 2 imaginary roots. That's what that means. There are any questions about how I did that? Are you good with that? Number 2 says, write a polynomial function that has these roots. So these are roots, not factors, roots. So 5 is a root. So how do I write it as a factor? If it's positive 5, what's its factor look like? X minus 5. Perfect. Then I have a root of 7i. That's the root. If you watch my videos, you know that imaginary roots and irrational roots always come in pairs. So I have this factor, which is going to be what? What's this one going to look like?
X minus 7i.
And then it has a pair, which is going to be,
Plus.
yes. So imaginary roots always come in pairs. Usually they only give you one. You have to know to write it twice, okay? So that's not a polynomial function. Right now that's in factored form. These are our zeros. This is factored form. Now we need to write it in polynomial form. So what we need to do is we need to FOIL or distribute. But when you do this, you always should multiply your imaginary roots together first. So I'm going to leave the x minus 5 there. What is x times x? X squared. What is x times 7i? Plus 7i x. What is negative 7i times x? Negative 7i x. And then what is negative 7i times positive 7i? I squared. Okay, what do you notice about the two middle terms? So these cancel out, which you guys, that's why you should always do those imaginary ones first, because things will cancel out. If you multiply the real times the imaginary, what happens is you'll have a lot of i's and nothing cancels out. Okay, so I'm going to leave x minus 5. What happens with the negative 49i squared? What do we know about I squared? It equals negative 1. So I have negative 49 times negative 1. So this becomes x squared, what? Plus 49. So we're almost there. So now we're still in factored form, but now it's a little bit easier, right? The i's have disappeared, and now we're going to FOIL again. We're going to distribute. You guys, when you distribute, it doesn't really matter if you go forwards or backwards. Just make sure that your answer is in standard form. So I'm going to do x times x squared. What is x times x squared? X to the third. What is x times 49? Negative 5 times x squared. And then negative 5 times 49. Negative 245. And you guys, that's a perfectly fine answer. It's just not in standard form. Every time you do something on the SATs or the ACTs, they're going to put it in standard form. Standard form just means put your exponents in order from smallest, from greatest to largest. So x to the third minus 5x squared plus 49x minus 245. Just like you guys, when we did synthetic division, you needed to put it like that. So that's your final answer. Are there any questions about that one?